Today's recipe calls for the sous vide stick once again. I'm going to show you how to make a side dish this time, also known as sous vide asparagus. They're basically butter poached, so we take something that's healthy and make it not so healthy, but it's very delicious. And we sprinkle a little lemon zest as well on top, and it's just so good. So with that said, let's get started.
The first thing we need to do so we can start this easy side dish recipe is get our sous vide stick up and running. If you've seen any of my sous vide videos, you already know this, but if you haven't seen any, here is some new information for you, maybe. Anyways, you'll notice the cooking utensil has a minimum and maximum line on it. We want the water level to be somewhere in the middle once we have it attached to our container. With that said, grab yourself a vessel that will hold enough water, which will allow the sous vide to be submerged for it to work properly. If you don't have a large plastic holding vessel, you can also use a large stock pot as well. Fill the water holder up with a clear liquid. Pro tip, use warm tap water. It'll help speed up the process by a few seconds so we can hit our temp faster. The reason why we're only filling the container halfway, because once we add the bag of goods to the water, the liquid level is going to rise. At this level, it should be enough clearance without things overflowing, making a huge mess. Now that the holding device is filled up, toss some type of lid on top of your container. This will help keep in the heat, speeding up the preheating process. Once all those things are done, it's time to set the temp on the mechanism. Crank the heat to 180 Fahrenheit or 82 degrees Celsius. While the water is getting nice and steamy, we can prep our bag of veggies. Snag yourself 1 pound or 454 grams of some green sticks, also known as asparagus. The little green things I'm using are the thickness of about a pencil. Use what is available to you. The only thing that will be different is the cooking times will vary depending on the thickness. More about that later on though. We're prepping right meow. We need to clean the asparagus by taking off the woody parts of the sticks. If you don't know what that is, it'll be the side that's the opposite end of the tip spear of the stick. This part tends to be white or more pale in color compared to the rest of the asparagus. It'll also look dry and stick-like on the bottom. You can also figure it out by very lightly squeezing the asparagus from the tip down. You'll be able to feel the veg going from tender to a hard texture. Now that you've figured out the woody part, we need to cut that off of each little stick. There are a few ways of doing this. You can bunch everything together, then chop the ends off. This method is fast but not very precise. The best way is to simply take one veggie stabber at a time and use both hands to lightly bend it in half. You want one hand on the woody end and using your thumb on the other hand, find where the asparagus starts to become hard in texture. Once you've found that part, simply snap the woody end off and discard that part. Dang, I feel so strong every time I do this task, but anyways, do this until everything has been taken care of. The next step is to peel all of our spears. This is an optional step. You can totally leave them as is and they will be fine, but peeling them will give us a better end product. The skins on the stalk tend to be tough, stringy, and kind of hard to eat. By taking that all off, you're left with a naked stick of veg that will result in a texture that is tender and delicious. This doesn't need much explanation, but lay your spear flat on your work surface, starting from right under the tip, peel all the way down to the end, rotating the stick until all the skin has been removed. Repeat this task until they've all been stripped. Discard all the peels. This stuff is perfect for compost if you have one. Oh yeah, also I highly recommend using the peeler I have. It's called a Y peeler, and these things are a million times better than that old school nonsense. They are way more efficient. I'll never go back. Enough about my love for a kitchen tool. Snag a medium-sized yellow onion. Cut the top off and then cut that thing into 2 sections. We'll only be using half, so save the other half for another recipe. Peel all the paper skin off the section you decided to use. Cut the onion from the front towards the root end of the veg, making about 1/4-inch sections of onion. This will help bring some flavor to our asparagus. The next aromatic item we need to prep is 5 medium to large size garlic cloves. Cut both ends off each piece. Give them a light smash. This will help us peel all the paper skins off. Once the vampire repellent is naked, give them a good smash. We want them to be slightly crushed. Doing this will help the cloves release more of the natural flavors and oils it holds. The next thing we need to prep is some butter. We'll be using 4 tablespoons of some unsalted butter. Use as much or as little as this as you want. Cube the fat into some little squares. On to the last step before we get to cooking. Grab a half tray. Using a tray will make things easier to season. Dump the asparagus onto it, drizzle about a quarter teaspoon of a neutral tasting oil over the veg. Gently mix the spears around to coat everything in the oil. When you've made that happen, add the garlic and onion next. Once again, give it a mixer to coat those two ingredients in the oil as well. Season everything with a few good fat pinches of coarse ground kosher salt. Next, add the zest of half of one medium-sized lemon to the tray of goods. Avoid zesting the white part of the citrus fruit. It's bitter in taste. Toss things around to spread the salt and zest about. You'll know when things are well mixed is when you see a ton of little yellow specks all over your veg. Now it's time to bag things up. You can use a large freezer zip top style bag for this. I'm going to use a reusable vacuum sealed bag. Whatever you decide to use, toss the asparagus in. Put the spears in one even row. If you can, ensure things are not overlapping for the best cook. Don't forget to add the rest of our aromatic ingredients. Get all the lemon zest off the tray as well. No need to waste things. Add the butter into the bag, placing it in so it's spread throughout. Zip the bag closed. Before you do that, ensure that you release as much air out as possible. Use your vacuum sealer to suck all of the air out. If you don't have one, you can simply use the water displacement method to sort of vacuum seal shut the bag. In case you don't know how to do this method, go check out my sous vide chicken video. I explain how it works. Now that our bag of food is ready and our water is up to temp, we need to drop things in. Toss the goods into the hot bath. To achieve a proper cook, you may need to place a weight atop of the bag. Use something that can handle the high heat. When placing things into the vessel or taking things out, use a pair of grabbers. The water is pretty hot and spicy. Place the top back onto the container. Before we set a timer, allow the water to come back up to temp, which is 180 degrees Fahrenheit or 82 degrees Celsius. When we reach our set heat, we'll set a timer. We'll be cooking our veg for 7 to 8 minutes or until the asparagus becomes tender and al dente in texture. If the asparagus you're using is thicker in diameter, the cooking time will be around 10 to 12 minutes. You may have to pull the bag out sooner and check them by pushing on them or using a fork to check the doneness. If you lightly push on the asparagus, it should slightly give under pressure, but not be able to completely smash. In case you don't want to hurt your little fingy, you can stab the veg with a fork. The fork should pierce the veg with little to no effort. If you have to use a lot of force, or if the fork gets stuck in the asparagus, then they need to be cooked for an additional few more minutes. When the timer rings and you did the tender test, using some tongs, pull the bag of goods out of the water. Toss it onto the half tray. To help lock in the perfect texture and color, place some ice atop of the veggies. This is sorta, kinda, but not really an ice bath. Do this for around 2 to 3 minutes or until things are cool to the touch. When things have been cooled down, dump the contents of the bag onto the tray. Give things a quick taste test and adjust the seasoning as needed with some coarse ground kosher salt. Also add the other half of the lemon zest to the cooked goods. Give things a quick mixer to spread it throughout. Now it's time to plate this business up. Grab your favorite eating saucer. Plate this any which way you would like. I made mine into 2 different stacks that were offset from one another. It's aesthetically pleasing because it gives things some nice height and it looks good. After that's been accomplished, place a little of the onion and garlic atop as well, kind of spread about the plate. To be extra bougie, add a small sprinkle of flaky sea salt and a small amount of some more lemon zest as well. Serve this with some baked salmon fillets or with some grilled chicken or even some sous vide pork chops. Whatever you decide to do, just enjoy.
Alright, now that our sous vide asparagus is done, let's give it the old taster-oo. So looking at it, came out super aesthetically pleasing. There's that nice bright green color from our asparagus. That means we cooked it perfectly. Then that lemon zest on top and throughout the asparagus really pops and shines through as well. The white from the garlic and onion really plays well with the other colors as well. Overall, it just looks super aesthetically pleasing and everything looks buttery and delicious. So let's give it a shot. Try to get a little bit of everything. This stuff came out super dang tasty. It's nice and rich and fatty from all that butter and oil that we added. The asparagus has that distinct flavor to it and it brings a ton of freshness. The garlic and onion pair so well together, it's like the best combination ever, and it basically makes everything that much better, and they bring a ton of flavor to our dish as well. Since they were cooked for not very long, they still have that little bite to them. It's not overpowering by any means, it's just perfectly cooked. The lemon zest itself really brightens up the dish and pairs well with the asparagus, and it helps cut through the richness of the fat from the butter and oil. They're basically butter poached, all of these veggies, and it's super tasty. Not very healthy, but really good. Texture-wise, everything is nice and al dente, so it has a little bit of a crunch to it, but overall, it's just so dang good, and you can't go wrong making it. This recipe is so dang easy to knock out, and you can pretty much make it any which way you want. Maybe get rid of the lemon zest and the onion because you don't like that stuff, and once they've been cooked, you throw a hollandaise over the top, or better yet, once they've been cooked, you drizzle it with some crispy, crunchy garlic chili oil, which sounds super dang tasty. So hopefully you enjoyed today's video. Thanks for watching, and I have a ton of meal prep to do for the week, so I'm gonna go do that, and we'll see you on the next one. So looking at it, came out super going through puberty. I also really plays Willie. Who's Willie? The old tasteroo. So looking at it, came out super. The asparagus is super. Again with the voice crack. Sous vide asparagus.